Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. And just like that, we're back with another amazing episode. Let me tell you guys, when I am here in this space, I have a different light, a different energy. It is truly one of my favorite places to be. And I say that, you can call me biased or whatever, fight me afterwards. I don't care. It's one of my favorite places to be because I love hearing these stories. I've researched my guest. I know that she has some powerful things to share with us. She's absolutely beautiful and amazing. I already feel the high energy, but you know, I am your beautiful host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from the amazing city of Houston, Texas. And we're going to let our guest come to the stage and do the normal drill. She comes, tells us her name, where she's streaming from, and just like that, we get the story. Without any further waiting time, here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Hello, everyone. My beautiful people, beautiful souls, as I say. My name is Michelle Angelique Poitier, aka Michelle Speaks with a Z. If you hide it, you can't heal it. I am hailing all the way from, at the moment, Virginia. And a little bit about me, I am a United States Navy veteran. I served honorably for 13 years. And then I began a new journey to help women regain their voices that have been silenced through shame. And so I am eclectic. I am a mother, a grandmother, a transformational speaker, a coach, and an advocate. And I do that because of my own journey. And I just believe that I am my sister's keeper, and we have to go back and help our sisters overcome what we've overcome, because nothing that we encounter is just for us alone. It's to be an example and to be in a voice for others to know that have lost their voices. They can not only regain it and claim it, and they can not only survive, but they can thrive no matter what. And so let me tell you a little bit about this girl named Michelle, because I know you guys are like, who is this chick coming on this platform telling us about who she is and that she speaks? And so for a long time, you know, my voice was silenced beginning at a young age, beginning at the age of 6. And I know I'm going to resonate with some people. I don't know about any other culture, but those in the African American community, what was the thing we were known for? What goes on in this house stays in this house. And what I learned in that was that silence breeds sickness. And I determined, once I regained my voice, that I would be silent no more. And I have not been. So backtracking again, at the age of 6, I encountered something that no child should have to encounter. You know, family is supposed to represent protection, provision, security, and safety. But that was not what I encountered. I was sexually violated by some male family members in my family. And that effectively silenced my voice before I realized that I had a voice and before I realized that I could implement boundaries. Because before that, I was a vivacious, vibrant, happy-go-lucky little girl, loving to bring life and smiles to those that are around me. And I went from being that to becoming silenced, to becoming withdrawn, to doing my best to shrink and make myself invisible, and becoming a chameleon, because I did my best to do what I could do to prevent myself from being harmed again. And so from the age of 6 to the age of 16, I was sexually violated by various family members. And then when I gave myself and became brave enough to want to be able to tell, I told my grandmother, who I was living with at the time, and her response was, "Why did you wait so long to tell me? You must have enjoyed it." And before you get shocked or anything like that, you do what you know. And growing up during that era that my grandmother grew up, all we knew was to keep what was in the family in the family. So I've long since forgiven my grandmother, God rest her soul. But I made a determination that I was going to stop the generations of self destructive behaviors that the women in my family engaged in because of this trauma, because of this secret, because I was not the first one that this happened to in my family, but I was one of many. But I was determined to be the one that stopped it, that changed it, that turned the generational curses into generational blessings. And so, at the age of 16, I finally got to the point that I could no longer suppress it. I could no longer hide it. I could no longer try to achieve success to kind of suppress it down, because I don't know how, if we continue to try to suppress our emotions, at some point we're going to either explode on others or implode within ourselves, because we were given a broad range of emotions to express, God given. And when we're not able to express that, then it becomes trapped in our body. And our body holds trauma, our body holds memories, our body holds emotions. And so mine were beginning to rise to the surface, and I had no idea how to process that. So I began trying to drink it away. I began trying to excel in everything that I put my hands to. I was on the dance team. I was in the choir. I was on the track team. I did everything I could to try to get those things up and out of my body without realizing the source. And so fast forward, I joined the military to recreate myself. And I married the biggest, most formidable looking man as my protector, and ended up in a marriage that was abusive in every sense of the word. But I survived that. And I birthed a beautiful daughter out of that union. And now I make it my mission, because after 5 failed suicide attempts, 5 mental health diagnoses, 5 accidents that I should have walked away from, I realized that I had to start speaking and start regaining my voice, because if I didn't, I wasn't going to make it. And so after doing that, I now make it my mission to go back and help women identify the barriers to healing, end the shame of silence, and restore their voices. And I do that by helping them to get to the root of the wounds within their souls. I do that by helping them to cleanse false belief systems. And I do that by helping them to set and sustain healthy boundaries. So that is me in a nutshell. And after being on this earth for 53 years, I think I've kind of mastered the art of embracing who I am, despite all the traumas that I encountered, because your trauma does not define you. It refines you.
Mm. How beautiful is it, guys, out there? First of all, what a beautiful spirit you have, Michelle. Beautiful spirit, beautiful energy, and to know that you've lived a life of a lot of trauma, and you sit here as this woman of such calming presence. Like, I feel like you should be right here reading me a book, telling me
Right.
something. Look, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, I love Michelle. Like, just the energy, the presence, the aura,
Yes.
really makes me feel calm, and that's just for real. That's just how I was feeling when I was listening to you. But what a heavy segment, because as I'm listening to it, and I tell my guests all the time, many of you have given the spills of life and,
Right.
your story so many. But I'm like the new the new person on the team, the new person on the cheerleading team for all the women that come here. And when I hear these stories, my heart drops. For one, I'm just kind of I'm just an active listener, and I'm very passionate about stories, all kinds. Like that's just that nerdy part of me. And here is the part, and you'll see this if you start to watch these series where Sinead does this. Today, Michelle, I give you roses, and I honor you. Not only you, the 6-year-old little girl is who I honor today in this space.
Thank you. And I received those
I
roses.
give you those roses, and I give you that more abundantly, because it's the place where I can do that, and it's coming from a pure place. Um, I think for me, from the first segment, when we were going from 6 to 16, and that was
Yes.
the dead-like state, because that's when it kind of started. That was like, this is when it started. I'm aware that this is going on with me. And then 16 is the age where now I'm getting a voice. So that's
Yes.
10 whole years of kind of just existing, probably. Let me ask you this. I know that this was several family members, and in our communities, our Black culture, she is right. It is that what happens in this house stays in this house. I heard that, coming up and around many friends, and they had that same kind of knowledge that was poured into them.
Right.
Multiple family members, grandma's now saying, which is, she did the best she had with what she knew, but she said something to the tune of, "You must have enjoyed it," which was breaking, even to me to hear it now. Tell me about the period of 6 to 16. Let's talk about this 10 years of what you can remember. Do you remember any sacred relationships from 6 to 16? Was there any time in that 6 to 16 period that you felt like you had someone that you can trust? Was there a friend? Were there any type of communication channels or any type of conversation that you felt to be safe that you can remember during that time?
So honestly, thank you for asking that. And that's a very, very powerful question. And I'm going to honestly say not only that I cannot remember, but I can sounding no, because I had learned to mistrust everything and everyone at a young age. So no, there was no one that I could talk to. There was no one that I trusted to be able to share that with, because the person that I trusted the most outside of my mother was my grandmother. And I shared that with her, and that was her response, and in my 6-year-old little mind, okay, I'll just be silent. I'll just be quiet, because adults we're supposed to listen to adults no matter what, even if it feels wrong, because it felt wrong to me. But I was like, it's an adult. So what do I do? So no, I suppressed it.
And the reason why I walk out these types of questions, because that's 10 years of suppression, right? And then even at 16, when you're saying, now I'm getting a voice, now I'm doing this thing, well, I still haven't really gotten any tools to actually walk this thing out. Exactly. Right? Because we have to see on the ground how these things are taken and how they're coming to fruition in our life, whether it's positive or negative. But our life, not necessarily choices, but our life situations that get us to a certain point. Okay, now Michelle has gone to military, and now she's saying, I do to a man who she thought she loved, I would assume.
Right.
What were you looking for in him? Because you had a history of not being able to, you know what I'm saying? You had a history of not being able to trust men. You got multiple people in your family who are violating a child.
Yes.
So how did you go from that to like, now I think I can marry? Was there any mental process that said, oh, I'm looking for this particular thing? Or is it because this is the first man that I feel that just didn't violate me from the start? How did you transition to that?
Shanandra, another great question. And for me, I was looking for a sense of safety. I was looking for a protector, not necessarily a provider, because I was so independent. I was going to provide for myself. But because of his formidable size, 6'4", 330, built like a brick wall, in my mindset, nobody was going to be able to get to me unless they went through him, because he was very protective. But me not knowing that protection was actually control, because that ended up being an abusive relationship as well for 20 years in every sense of the word. But for me, he represented the safety and the security and the protection that I never realized growing up.
I got it. I just wanted to walk through that. And she said brother was 330, so that was a big old boy.
Yeah.
6'4", 330. That was a big man. And even just that stature, right, brought some form of security and safety. It's like, okay, well, and I like what you said. You got to go through this big brother to get to me. And just that kind of thought process of where we, find safety when we've been wounded in the battle, right? So I wanted to make sure you talk through that. And it's such a powerful thing, because sometimes when women don't go back and do these things to figure out the why did I even choose that from being, traumatized and all of that? We end up making the same choices. Like it doesn't, like not in the sense to where it might be the man, it might be in a whole different area of life, because these things come to pass kind of in different ways.
Right,
so
right.
Make the audience understood that, that thought process.
So, and not only that, I'm sorry. Not only that, because it just came to my mind, he was the first man that had not approached me and tried to sexualize me, because I had encountered so many men that saw me as a sexual object. I can't help my genes. I now embrace that, the beautifully, uniquely made creature that God made me to be. But he was the first man that was more interested in my mind and what I had going on than me. So that was attractive to me.
Mm-hmm. That is so good, because another thing is, like, now that you have a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
when you were coming into motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of those thoughts start to flood your mind about your situation, right?
Yeah.
I have a son now, and I didn't have a traumatic childhood. I
Right.
wouldn't say that I did, right?
Right.
But what I did found, or excuse me, what I found was when I got pregnant, I started having like all kinds of thoughts back to my childhood, whether positive or negative, because now I'm
Right.
having life come through me. So
Right.
when you found out that you were pregnant and you were walking, kind of this life thing, where was your mind when you found out you were pregnant? Did it go back to the 6-year-old? Because I found that people that I've interviewed who've had traumatic childhood experiences, it's like a tight walk. Like, certain things will trigger you back to that place.
First of all, yes, it did. Because first of all, I had made up in my mind that I was never going to get married and never have children, because I didn't want to repeat the experience that I had. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was in denial for like 2 weeks. When the pregnancy test came back, I was overseas in Panama, and I called him and I told him, and he was happy. I hung up the phone and I avoided him for like 2 weeks because I was like, Michelle. And then I made a vow right then at that moment that what happened to me would never happen to her, no matter what. And I made sure that he understood that we were going to protect her at all costs. Like, she wasn't going to stay with anybody. She wasn't going to stay with any relatives. It was either I was going to be out to sea at work, or or he was going to be, but one of us was going to be around her at all times, because I was determined that it was not going to happen to her. And of course, I wasn't able to prevent that. So I was angry for a while at God, but I've since forgiven God and know that he didn't cause that. And she's now in a healthy place because I have the kind of relationship with her. I developed that she could come to me and talk to me about anything, no matter what. And so we've broken that cycle in our family.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I like to hear, that cycle breaking.
Mm-hmm.
That cycle breaking is where the transformation happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can try and be as careful, but if we're not talking about the thing, and this is why this platform exists for me. I know it's a podcast, but when I have these conversations, most of my guests are like, okay, I know it's more than a podcast. And yeah, it's my calling, it's my mission. I'm operating in what I'm supposed to do, because it's these type of conversations that changes things.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't, especially in our culture, we talked about this early in the show. We don't get the avenue, the space to ever have the real conversation.
Right.
Ever.
And those are the only kind of conversations I have. If I cannot be authentic with you, if I cannot have more than surface conversation with you, then I'll be cordial with you, but you won't be in my inner circle. There's 3 categories of people I keep in my life: the outer court, the inner court, and the holiest of holies. And so, I walk in forgiveness, but forgiveness does not mean access. Access is conditional. So if you're willing to own up to what you did, if you're willing to show change behavior over a period of time, then you have access to me again, to the holiest of holies. But if not, I love you. If you need something, I'm here for you, but you cannot have access to me, because I created healthy boundaries and I will guard them at all costs, and those that are near and dear to me. And so that's so important to say, because in the African American community, one thing we don't talk about as well is mental health, mental illness. And I realized that in my family, there was some challenges with mental illness, but nobody wanted to address it. They covered it up and said, he's that way or she's just that way. No, silence breeds sickness. We got to talk about it. And you can't heal from mental health challenges if you don't address them.
And I love that silence breaks sickness. Absolutely. And we have to drive these conversations, especially now. There's so many resources. A lot of our, parents, grandparents, ancestors, they didn't have the resources,
Right.
to go talk to a mental health professional. So guys, take that seriously. If there is something you or your family is dealing with, seek help.
Yeah.
I would rather you go and seek the help than something bad happen down the line. Or guess what? Me and Michelle talked about this a moment ago, generational curses. So
Right.
you can sit there and keep sweeping under the rug and not going to see who you need to see, and then seeing literally decades and decades of folk going through the exact same thing. Now, I want to transition here. How did we get into Michelle Speaks? So after this time, Michelle has lived this resilient life. She is coming into herself. And then we got a whole speaker, author, coach. How do we
Yes.
make the transition? How do we start making these things of trauma really become of purpose?
So another transformational moment. Life is all about transitionings and how you're going to transition. And so at my fourth of 5 failed suicide attempts, I found myself at a crossroads. My daughter had just gone to college. I had just lost my apartment, my car, a relationship, the support of my family because I was having some mental health challenges and I had spiraled. And I didn't have the will to want to continue to fight, to continue to live. And I ended up going on this expedition that I had no idea what I was getting into for veterans. And I was hanging off the side of the Andes Mountain at about 18,000 feet with 10 other veterans, disabled veterans. I was the only female and the only African American, and I'm roped into these people. And I had to not only trust them, but I had to trust myself. And that was my paradigm shift because I realized at the top of that mountain that I no longer wanted to die. I just didn't want to continue to carry this excruciating pain in my heart and in my soul. I wanted to get it out of me. I wanted to uproot it. And so on the top of that mountain, I started journaling and realizing that I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I just want to heal this pain. I want to be able to speak freely and to live freely without this thing, running in my head like a movie reel. And so I realized at the top of that mountain that if I could climb this mountain, I could overcome any obstacle in my life. And so that was the beginning of the trajectory of building Michelle Speaks. It started out as a nonprofit, Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida, where I helped women and women veterans recover from military sexual trauma. And then it morphed into Michelle Speaks. I started an internet radio podcast that morphed into speaking and a coaching organization. And so that's how it happened. I journeyed through my own journey from brokenness to wholeness, and through some intense therapy, through a sound community of support, through continual doing the inner work and facing the hard things. I was given some programs that help walk others through. And to date, because of that, we've reached over 189,000 lives that we've impacted globally, all because I made the decision to be silenced no more and to speak about the things that people deem taboo and unmentionable. Because as I started speaking, women and men started coming out of the woodwork and sharing their story. And that's the beginning. Once you're able to articulate it and voice it, that's when the healing begins, because it comes up and out of the body, and then you can deal with it as it comes. Is how Michelle Speaks came to be.
Mm-hmm. Did y'all hear what Michelle said? And then I talk about this often. Michelle did some self-work before Michelle Speaks was born.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about this mountain experience of having to go basically to the peak of a mountain, essentially. And then also, too, the other part about it, she said, she had to speak the truth about it. She had to go in and do the inner workings. And I tell people, those are the most powerful and most impactful brands. So when I meet people who I know have done the work before they've done.
And this is the thing that people don't understand, Shanandra. Healing is a journey. It is not a destination. It's continual.
It's a continual thing, and you have to be committed to that thing, right? Because I tell myself, in the healing process, like I know that out of all this stuff tomorrow, Sinead's not going to be automatically healed. I may have a day 6 months down the line where I feel like it's day one. It just happened to me. But what am I going to do to make sure that I'm committed to doing it and saying like it's not going to consume me? So I love what you're doing. When I read the information, I said, I'm going to get the purest information out of Michelle because I understand the strides.
Mm-hmm.
I sit and read. I sit and look around. I sit and capture, the energy and the vibe of what people I think they feel before they even get here, right? Because I know that it's important for me to share as purely as I can my gift. So that's kind
Amen.
of how these questions have weaved along this way.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of your coaching services, and I always ask this, understand how the coaching works. Is this one-on-one coaching? Is this group coaching? Does it, is it kind of a la carte? I can, maybe have a few sessions, book 3, or is it like a year-long program? How do the coaching services work? And then I know that you told us a little bit about this early in the episode. You say you work with them with uncovering things and getting to the root. Just talk to us a little bit about kind of the cycle of the coaching.
Okay. So first of all, the coaching services, they are both one-on-one, which is a 3 to 6 month program, depending on, it's individual to the person. There is no cookie cutter method because there is no cookie cutter person. And so, one of the gifts that I have is being able to discern and to really read where people are. So I determine what I need and how I need to walk them through it. Because again, I am a coach, not a counselor. And I make that very clear. If you're ready to do the work, I'm here to journey with you. But I'm not a counselor who's here to sit and allow you to dump. That's not me. I can refer you to some counselors, but I'm not a therapist. And then I have also a la carte, which is sessions on the go. I do offer some group coaching, but it's only under one program, and that is the Moving Beyond Pain, because some people thrive better in a group environment. And again, I do that after having a clarity call, so to determine where you are in your journey, if you would do better one-on-one or if you would do better in a group environment. And then we have a community of support, the Empowered to Thrive community, so you can have continual support, because one thing for sustainability and longevity in your healing journey is to be accountable to someone other than yourself, and to have a community of support where you feel safe to unmask and reveal even the nastiest, darkest moments of your life, and know that it's not going to be repeated, and you're not going to be judged, and you're not going to be made to feel ashamed. So those are the types of coaching services that I offer. And then the process is, these 3 pillars are the foundational pillars of how to go through the journey. And I must say that I am a woman of faith, so everything that I do is founded on a firm foundation of faith, with the word, but as well as with, practical tools that I have learned by taking programs and things of that nature. So both practical and spiritual. So the first foundation is, number 1, it's identifying the barriers to emotional healing, because until you get to the root, you only deal with the symptoms, then you're not going to heal. So that first part of the program is that. The second pillar is ending the shame of silence. And we do that by cleansing false belief systems, because everything is based on a belief system. And then the final pillar is restoring your voice. And you do that by setting and sustaining healthy boundaries. But to do that, you have to identify the boundaries and the types of boundaries that were violated. So that, in a nutshell, is the system.
I love it. And thank you so much for that detailed approach. You have to tell us where we can connect with you, where we can find out more about these services, so that if there are listeners, viewers that wants to connect with Michelle Speaks, they have all that information. So please provide that now for our listeners and viewers.
Awesome sauce. So if you want to connect with me, if you want to follow me, if you want to book me to speak or for coaching, just go to www.michellespeakswithaz.com. Follow me on all my social media platforms. Handles are Michelle Speaks with a Z, IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Follow me, be inspired, be encouraged, be transformed to live the abundant life that we were called to live. And if you want to read up on some things and you're not ready to reach out to me, take a look at The Journey to Abundance. And this talks about the journey from pain to passion to purpose to power, because we are all powerful in our own right. So tap into your resilience.
Oh, I love it. And you were proactive now, Michelle, because I was just about to tell you to weave in the book, and you did. So thank you, girl, for for looking out. Did you say we can get the book? Is that on the website specifically, or where can they purchase the book?
Amazon.com. I have an author profile on Amazon, because there's some other, writings as well. Don't allow your past to define you. And you is an acronym. So it's yielded, overcoming, and undefeated. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, make sure you guys go and check out her entire profile on Amazon. It looks like she has a lot of amazing things out there. go and check it out. And I love the way that she said, if you're not ready to book a call with me, I have resources. If you know you're not ready, make sure you go and check out those resources and take some steps. If you're saying, I can't call it right now, do something today. Take a step today and get the book.
And of course, if you have some, there's a free downloadable as soon as you click on my site. So that'll give you tips to identifying an accountability partner. And in response to you subscribing to the newsletter, you'll receive another downloadable that talks about reclaiming your resilience. So of course, there are things that you can implement without even connecting with me, or if you're not ready. So there are things for you to be able to begin your journey or identify where you are in your process. So use the tools, because nobody can help you if they don't know that you're hurting, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. And so if you want to meet me or meet me, I'll be in Texas actually next month. Denim and Diamonds, acknowledging domestic violence awareness. I'll be speaking with some other phenomenal speakers. So join me. I want to meet with you. If you're in Texas, come and join me. I want to meet you face to face.
Now, you know, Michelle, Texas is a whole country by itself. What part of Texas you going to be?
Lancaster, I believe it's not too far from Dallas, Fort Worth.
From Dallas. Okay, so y'all heard that. Dallas. I'm in Houston, and that's in Dallas. You know, Houston is so low. Dallas is like 4 hours. Lancaster will probably be like almost 5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours away from the Houston area. So she'll be here. I'm pretty sure if you go and subscribe, there'll be other details coming forth about that particular event. I absolutely love it. Now, Michelle, this is the part in our series where we say, Michelle, I cue over to you for final thoughts. I always tell my guests if they catch nothing but this particular part of your episode, I want you to give them something that captures the essence of Michelle and also to give us some good final parting words for this space. So over to you for final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are, you are never too far gone to begin again, no matter where you are, no matter what your age is, no matter what your journey of trauma has been. You are never too far gone that you can't begin again. You are not alone. You matter. You are important. If you are straddling the fence, trying to make a decision whether or not you want to live, because this is Suicide Awareness Month, or you want to die, choose life, but don't make a permanent decision based on a temporary circumstance, because there is help, there is hope, there is healing for you. So reach out and get help, because we need you.
We need you. I love that. Thank you so much, Michelle. Let me tell you, I told you guys it's going to be a good episode. You could already tell from Michelle's smile, her energy. You could just pick it up when she came on the screen, and I shared that with her. I want to thank everybody in the Her Voice Shines podcast link for this episode. I hope that you have gotten some nuggets from it. I really hope that you've enjoyed this beautiful space that I've had with Michelle on today. And I tell you, transformative things happen when you let your voice shine. I will never leave this place, so I'll tell you that I love you. And we'll be back really in no time with another amazing woman on the Her Voice Shines podcast. But until then, we are out.